Today I'm talking about the Twilight Saga, because you can't beat a dead horse enough, unless it becomes a vampire horse, in which case you probably should stop. It doesn't appreciate it. Do I really need to explain what Twilight is? I think you all know it somehow. Whatever. Might as well. Twilight is the YA supernatural romance that started it all, written by Stephanie Meyer. It's about a teenage human named Bella Swan who, after moving to Washington, or is it Oregon? I don't know and I don't care, meets a quote-unquote hot dude at her school who, guess what, is a vampire. And so begins the love story of a lifetime. Mainly because it's gonna take a lifetime to forget this wreck. And you know exactly who this is intended for. Let's just say there's no Y in this YA. But for some reason, this stupid wish fulfillment romance was panned by everyone who was not 13 years old or produced a 13-year-old. So why was this series judged with the big boys like Too Fast and Too Furious and Ernest Saved Christmas? Does this series really deserve the hate? Yes. Kind of. It's complicated. So, come along, join me as I go through the entire series and talk about the bad and not as bad parts. The movies though, because I cannot spend 20 odd hours reading this with my sanity intact. So let's start with the one that started it all. And I would say spoilers at this point, but come on, it's Twilight. Ah yes. This is gonna be a load of fun. I mean, look at this. It's like the worst things about movies made in 2003. Yeah, when was this made again? Right, that makes perfect sense in hindsight. I mean, I know that the blue and gray grime is a stylistic choice to present the world as lifeless as Bella's facial expressions, but you could make it a little better, guys. So Bella moves in with her dad to a town named Forks. Best town name ever. She attends school and meets and talks to a guy named Edward. But when a heroic truck that was just trying to save us from 5 terrible movies gets stopped by Edward, Bella starts that something is up and proceeds to do nothing about these suspicions for like a couple of weeks. Then jumps to way too many conclusions and by luck gets it right that he's a vampire. And even after a buttload of red flags.
Get in the car. We should go back there and rip those guys' heads off.
No, you shouldn't. You should put your seatbelt on.
You should put your seatbelt on.
Vampire.
This is what I am. I'm a killer. I'm the world's most dangerous predator. Everything about me invites you in. I wanted to kill you. I've never wanted a human's blood so much in my life.
I trust you.
Don't.
Is willing to be his boo for some reason I will never know. Seriously. He introduces him to his family, Dr. Carlisle, whose appearance makes me wonder why no one figured out he was a vampire yet. Seriously, does he look like a doctor that wouldn't suck your blood? No, he doesn't. His wife, Esme, who I swear gets 10 lines in this entire series, Jasper and Alice, the couple you wish this movie was about, and the others. Nice to meet you guys. It'll be nice to watch you get shoved into the background. They then play some baseball, and then the movie realizes we need an actual plot, and then the villains show up. One of them decides that despite her lifeless composition, Bella looks appetizing, so he decides he's gonna kill her. Whoops. And so, after putting her father through more trouble than he deserves, she, Asper, and no. Not Asper. What is that? That's gonna be the name of Bella's son if she ever has one. She, Alice, and Jasper go to Phoenix and chill for a bit, but not for long because the bad guy eventually gets her and decides to toil for a bit, allowing for him to be easily found and killed off screen. But he's able to get a bite into Bella and she starts turning into a vampire. But don't worry, Edward gets the venom out in time, which is a terrible idea, I'll explain later. They go to prom because what is a teen film without a prom? And credits. So yeah, just about every criticism this series gets takes place in this first movie, with the exception of the whole Jacob thing, because his part is very minimal. You were staring at his hair, weren't you? It's hypnotizing, isn't it? Bella is a piece of wood. Not even that, really. She's a pile of sawdust. And notice that I don't say Kirsten Stewart's acting, because I feel this wasn't her fault and she gets a lot of crap she doesn't deserve. Here's the thing. No human being acts like this. Have you ever talked to someone? They always have a little bit of life to their voice and features, because they're, human. It takes a lot of skill to maintain this level of emotion, meaning this was intentional. Kirsten Stewart has actually been in other movies where she has acted human, and even if her acting ability was what made this performance, it's the director's job to get the best out of their actors. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's Bella's fault she has the range of a stick beetle, and not Kirsten Stewart's. And not only does she have the depth of a pirate, do you get that joke there? Do you get it? She's a total jerk. She constantly blows off her ridiculously friendly friends. I mean, give these people an award. If this was real life, these people would ignore Bella like the plague and not treat her like some sort of cult leader they follow. She also has no self-preservation whatsoever, see every red flag account, and her love for Edward makes no sense, which I'll get to later. If all of the movies were the same level of quality as this one, then I'd say this series deserves all the hate it gets. It's ugly, it's stupid, and I struggle to find anything I find good about it. I want to stop talking about this, so let's get to the next film. Ah yes, New Moon, or as it should be known, Ballad of Jacob the Third Wheel. At least on the quite literal bright side, this movie looks a lot better than its predecessor. Maybe they realized that the gray tint was a bad idea, or maybe they couldn't afford quality until now. But either way, the cinematography in this movie is a lot better and takes advantage of the Pacific Northwest setting, showing calming green forests in a small town feeling small town. But enough of complimenting this train wreck, let's get to the story. So Bella and Edward have been seeing each other for months, and yet she's accepting birthday gifts from other dudes. Right in front of him too, that's kind of weird. Jerk move, Bella. But at a birthday party with Edward's family, Bella somehow gets a deep paper cut from wrapping paper, which draws blood. Not exactly the best thing to happen in a room full of vampires, which Edward, as loving and considerate boyfriend as he is, slams her into the side of the wall like it's WWE, causing her to need stitches. But don't worry, it was to protect her. After this incident, Edward decides that having the vampire equivalent of a naked chicken chalupa as a girlfriend isn't exactly the best idea, so he decides to break it off, in the middle of the woods. At night. Bella is upset and runs off into the dangerous forest, and Edward just lets her, and never checks to make sure she got home alright, which she didn't. But don't worry, a half-naked guy found her and got her home. So Bella now gets extreme depression, and does nothing for months on end, only stirring to get herself into dangerous situations to see her ghost ex. Truly, this is the female role model we have all been waiting for. She decides to do more dangerous stuff and figures she needs help. Enter the vanquisher of clothing himself. Jacob, I don't think he has a last name. But if you have a keen eye, you'll notice he's a lot more clothed than usual. But no matter. Him and Bella fix up a bunch of motorbikes and bombing it. Jacob starts to develop feelings for Bella, but she's too busy nearly killing herself to see Edward to actually notice, and when she does notice, she immediately turns him down. And yeah, let's not be on the bloodthirsty bush any longer. The only reason you know Jacob by name is because of the whole Teen Edward, Teen Jacob thing. The thing that way too many people participated in, despite the fact that it was ultimately pointless. Because really, there's only one obvious answer here. It's gotta be a Jacob boy. In literally every way, he's superior to Jacob. No, not Jacob, Edward. Dang it! Literally in every way, he's superior to Edward. He and Bella have chemistry, they have shared experiences, they talk about things other than how in love with each other they are, and Bella flat out at one point says she's happy. And Edward, well, Why does he like Bella, and vice versa? I don't think they ever mention it. But though she doesn't choose the obvious answer, this love triangle is completely pointless, as I'll explain when we get to Eclipse. Now, Jacob gets sick all of a sudden, and Bella doesn't see him for months, until he is at her window one night, lacking in both shirt and hair. He tries to express his feelings for her, and once again is rejected. Upset again, he then runs into the forest with his shirtless brethren. So Bella decides to go into a random field and sulk again until Dreadlock Man from the first movie shows up and asks where Edward is. Ghost Edward gives Bella the worst advice ever, and then wolves! Eventually, Bella finds out that Jacob is a werewolf. What? I had no idea! Definitely not with the trailers and promo material showing him turn into a wolf, but what a big surprise! Whatever, so she finds out that werewolves hunt bad vampires, and they chase one named Victoria, who was from the first movie if you remember, to Canada, proving that this series is an epidemic on a global scale. But guess what? This doesn't go anywhere in this movie. For now, we have Bella jumping off a dangerous cliff, nearly dying, and Jacob saving her to entertain us. Alice shows up because Bella flat out jumped off a cliff, and she was worried. And then Bella and Jacob kiss, because we gotta have some way to keep this love triangle alive. Right after that, the phone rings and Jacob answers it. Dude, don't answer your girlfriend's phone, it could be the other guy. Well, that's what you get. So because Jacob said Bella's father was preparing for a funeral, did I forget to mention that? Edward thinks it's because Bella is dead because she jumped off a cliff and freaks out. Allison realizes, oh crap, he's gonna kill himself. I know because I can see the future. Her exact words, I believe. Bella and Alice hightailed Italy, but not before Bella glares at Jacob for a while. That's why you don't answer somebody else's phone. So Bella stops Edward from flashing people to death. What a way to go. They kiss and make up and meet with the secret vampire high council. That actually sounds pretty cool. Too bad it's full of overacting snobby dudes. So these guys are called the Volturi, but that sounds like such a generic evil organization game that I'm just gonna call them the Bloody Buddy Gang. So the Bloody Buddy Gang see that Bella's human, so they try to kill her, but Edward puts up as wimpy as a fight he can. So surprisingly, they beat him, and they're just about to kill him when Bella says to kill her. And then we find out the stupidest thing in this movie.
You are quite a soul reader yourself, Edward. No, you can't read Bella's thoughts. I see nothing. Remarkable.
So, wait, if you couldn't read Bella's mind, Edward, how'd you ask her to project herself when she was in danger? How did you know that she was even in danger? How did she get her powers to block vampy powers? I mean, we found out later that she's a shield, which is a type of vampire power. So how does she have it now? Are the powers always there and lay dormant? If Edward really tried, could he read minds back when he was human? Could Alice see the future? Speaking of Alice, how could she see Bella's future? Why doesn't Bella's shielding work on her? All of these questions and more will never get answered because Stephenie Meyer doesn't know how to write story economy or logic. So Alice says she has seen the future, and that in the future Bella is a vampire, so it all good. Bloody Buddy Gang say fine and let them all go, and instead of turning her right then and there, which is what a smart evil society would do. But give them a break, they were tired. As they walk out, they see a group of tourists being guided into the Bloody Buddy Gang's chambers, and all we hear is screams. Can we go back there and watch that? That seems pretty cool. No? Okay. I honestly don't know how the Bloody Buddy Gang could ever eat with all the scenery they chewed in the last scene. We next see Jacob confronting Edward, talking about how terrible of a person he is when Bella tells him off.
Don't make me choose. Because it'll be him.
Remember this moment. We'll get back to it. So Bella says she wants Edward to turn her, and he says he'll do it only if they get married, which is a terrible idea, I'll explain later. But Bella reacts in the expected manner.
Marry me, Bella.
And credits. This movie's a little bit better than the first movie, but it's still pretty bad. I mean, it looks pretty nice. The Bloody Buddy Gang was pretty interesting, but the love triangle thing is stupid. Bella virtually trying to kill herself is stupid. The whole I would rather die than live in a world without you thing is stupid. It's just toxic levels of stupidity. But if I thought the whole love triangle thing in this movie was stupid, then you know I'm going to love the next movie. Yep, I bet you forgot there was a twilight between New Moon and Breaking Dawn. I do not blame you. Almost everything about this movie is forgettable, even the visuals. I mean, they're the same as the last movie, with the exception of some snow. Ooh, we're getting crazy now. Most of the plot is focused on the series love triangle between Bella, Jacob, and Edward, except Jacob is all the likability sucked out of him, and Edward is, well, the same. And let's go a little bit more into that love triangle a bit, because a line that Bella has in the last movie explains why both it and this movie are stupid.
Don't make me choose. Because it'll be him. It's always been him.
She already made her choice. We already know who she's gonna choose. It's gonna be Edward, no matter what happens in this movie. So it's just Jacob being a whiny pepper, Bella being stupid, and Edward just rolling with it all. They don't even have a physical altercation. This is as close as it gets.
I am hotter than you.
But I digress. Let's go through this story. So we started with a guy being turned into a vampire. But enough with the interesting stuff. Cut to Bella and Edward talking about how in love with each other they are. Gee, shocker. And we find out that Bella isn't quite sold on being married to Edward yet, but is completely sold on being a vampire, which Edward isn't in favor of. Which, A, if your first answer to a proposal is no, you probably shouldn't take that proposal. B, Bella, if you're not completely sold on the commitment for marriage, why are you so sold on the idea of being a vampire, eternal killer of the night? C, Edward, not wanting Ella to turn yet wanting to marry her is a terrible idea, as I'll explain later. So, I don't know. They talk about Jacob a bit, then hang with Bella's mom while more interesting stuff happens off screen. And then Jacob finally arrives to stare angrily at Edward a bit, and then Bella and Jacob talk a bit. Then we find out the lady vampire that was kind of brought up in the last movie is back and after Bella. So after some territory marking, Edward sticks Bella on Jacob. Sure, because that's a totally great idea. Jacob harasses Bella and she responds in the appropriate manner. And as much crap as I give Bella's acting ability, I do have to admit this is her best reaction ever. So Vampire Doctor fixes her hand, and Sister Vampire gets upset. She then tells Bella her long and tragic backstory, which involves her being a nice lady who was assaulted by her fiancé and his friends, and then hunted them all down for revenge when she was a vampire. Sorry, but, why aren't we watching that movie? I would like to watch that movie. Can we? No? Think of stupid Bella and Edward love triangle stuff anyways. So we find out that there are some bad vampires on their way, so the group decides it's a long time overdue for some training. We then learn about Jasper's backstory of being the right-hand man to a lady vampire during a vampire turf war, during the Civil War. I'm sorry, but why are we watching this when we could be watching that? I know it's technically Abe Lincoln the Vampire Slayer, but still, that's way more interesting than this. In fact, all of the backstory bits would be way more interesting than watching this piece of crap. I mean, if they actually announced that they were making a prequel series based on one of the characters, I would not be opposed to that. I want to learn about Carlisle's doctor practices, maybe even how he met his wife, maybe how Alice and Jasper met, literally anything, besides watching the teenage girl equivalent of a paper bag with a drawn-on face, and her choice between a heroin addict and a pair of whiny wolf abs. Bella and Edward are alone in his house, preparing for the battle ahead, but Bella does not want to do much resting up, if you catch my Tokyo drift. But shockingly, and I do mean shockingly, Edward turns her down, saying he would rather wait for marriage, which makes this the first and only mainstream movie I've seen that actually supports abstinence, which makes me more than severely depressed. So he proposes again, this time with the blinked back up, and Bella says yes, which should make him suspicious that she only said yes once it was clear that she wasn't getting any till they were hitched. But Edward, much like everyone in this universe, has only 2 brain cells, and they're both pretty busy hating Jacob, so he doesn't really pick up on it. So Bella urges Edward not to tell Jacob for some reason, and they both head into the forest. They walk around as Bella's just carried by Jacob. Seriously, girl, you have legs. Use them. So the next 10 or so minutes is just boring, stupid love triangle stuff. So instead of going through the agonizing pain of describing that experience, I'm just going to rattle off some of the questions I had throughout this entire series. So, enjoy. So do vampires have to drink fresh blood from the source, or can they drink it out of like a blood bag? Because if so, can't they put up like a Craigslist ad and pay someone for their blood? Does the government know about vampires and werewolves? I mean, they have to, right? And if so, are they using them for some sort of like super secret super soldier kind of program thing? Like S.H.I.E.L.D.? Exactly how many vampires are there? Because I feel like if it's more than 10,000, how do they keep it a secret? I mean, someone knows, right? In fact, how do they keep it a secret? I mean, there are a lot of human drinkers, so how many mysterious deaths where the blood has been completely sucked out can there be before somebody notices? What happens if a werewolf gets bitten by a vampire? Does it turn into a super vampire werewolf? Speaking of, if popular culture got vampires and werewolves right, what other monster myths has folklore gotten correct? Mummies? Black lagoon creatures? Mermaids? Unicorns? When and end. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get back to this story. But seriously, how does the government not know about vampires? We finally get to something interesting when Jacob overhears Bella and Edward talk about their wedding and runs off into the woods. Bella chases after him and...
Kiss me.
Oh. Okay. What? Yeah, so, does anyone want to explain this to me? No, seriously, someone please explain this to me. Throughout the entire movie, Bella, while clearly still holding some feelings for Jacob, has made it very clear that she chooses Edward, like, through the entire movie. So why does this happen? It makes no sense, even by this stupid love triangle standard. Maybe she realized that if Jacob was over her, he wouldn't snuggle or carry her around anymore. Anyways, so Victoria and her vampire army arrive, and wait a second. Bryce Dallas Howard? No! How many IMDb pages must you ruin, series? So a fight breaks out and everyone gets their heads ripped off or something, but it's not as cool since there's no blood, but it's good enough for this series, I guess. So Edward and Victoria brawl for a bit, with Edward starting to lose. I will punch the next Edward I see after this video is finished. Okay, so Bella does something actually remotely smart, and she cuts her arm drawing blood, allowing Edward to snap Victoria's head off like a Toblerone, and that whole thing is done. We then end with Bella saying she's over Jacob. Why does this exist? Seriously, somebody please tell me why this movie adds nothing. We learn nothing, and ended up in the exact same place we began, with Bella still being human and Edward still wanting to marry her. But while this is completely pointless and I hate it, there were still some pretty cool bits, like the vampire army and all the characters' backstories. This movie just feels like there's a good movie going on while we're stuck in the background with the stupid romantic subplot. I don't have anything more to say, so next. So, Breaking Dawn, Part 1. Yeah, I'm immediately against this one for starting that whole trend. I mean, I know Harry Potter technically started it, but this is where it started getting exploited, so it's just as guilty. And I have to admit, while it is 1,000 million miles from good, it's still a Twilight movie after all. This and the next movie are actually not too bad. I mean, especially in the visuals department. I mean, there's actual good composition in this one. And it's probably due to the fact that there's varied locations instead of just the forest, the Colin's house, the forest again. But let's look at the story, which is definitely something. So we begin with Bella on her wedding day. And as much as I detest all the romantic stuff, that wedding is pretty sweet, and that shot was pretty amazing. I'm not going to lie. Also, I suddenly feel dirty for some reason. Ugh. But, no joke here, this actually happens. We go through every single aspect of Bella's wedding and honeymoon. The awkward toasts, the altercations with ex-boyfriends, the car ride to the airport, the car ride to the resort, Bella taking a shower and brushing her teeth, and yes, even that. You sickos. Actually, that part I skipped because nothing inflicts more levels of nope than watching the thing that 50 Shades of Grey was inspired by. Just know that it was a terrible idea that I'll explain right now. So Bella ends up getting pregnant, and human plus vampire plus baby equals ick. So now, I must ask, Edward, what exactly was your plan? I mean, you were against Bella becoming a vampire from the start, but you wanted to get married to her, even though you knew that doing your marital duties would probably end up killing her. So were you just gonna like go throughout her natural life and hope it never came up? Also, speaking of that, were you just gonna let Bella die? I mean, eventually she's gonna like die of like old age or a car crash or something, and we've seen your reaction to her death, so why take out the venom in the first movie at all? I mean, I know it's because you wanted her to be human and all, but why though? I mean, if you lined 10 people in a row and asked them, do you guys want to be vampires? Almost all of them would say yes, and the person who said no was probably like a vegetarian or a communist. So what? You have a thirst for human blood. That can easily be negated by animal blood, and you're super fast, you're invulnerable, you're always going to remain hot, and you get a special ability as an added bonus. So really, you're a complete jerk, Edward. Anyways, now Bella's preggers, and once again has to drag her father through the ringer, I might add. And at this point, the movie changes from a romantic island episode of a soap opera to obscene body horror. Seriously, all the bones in her body start to crack because the baby is growing at a rate where her body can't adapt to support it. And then she gets super thin because she becomes malnourished, the fact that the baby won't let her eat any food except blood, which means she has to drink a bag of blood that Dr. Carlisle had laying about, which, hey, didn't I just mention that? Why don't you guys do that on a normal basis? And all throughout this entire experience, everyone is worried out of their minds, but Bella is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys are like freaking out. I mean, this baby's the best thing ever. Your spine's about to break from your baby's weight. I think they have the right to be a little bit stressed out. Also, there's this whole thing where she insists on a gut feeling that's a boy.
He's thirsty.
It's not a boy, so this makes no sense, but that doesn't mean she can't pick the worst girl name ever.
Renesmee.
I swear, if I'm in a conversation with you and I find out that's your name, I will vacate the premises after punching you in the face. But throughout this movie, Jacob is just whining about what's going on while fighting against wolves, and also he's being a sore loser, which is like the worst. But that all changes. Oh boy, that all changes. So, Bella's just chillin' when, looks like the baby's trying to eat its way out. Ew. And bloodthirsty vampires are not the best medical team. So, Edward lends a helpful tooth. Oh, this is all absolutely horrifying. As Jacob fights the wolves, this series just went from nothing happening to everything happening. So, they get the baby out safely. Why are you standing there, Edward? She has a hole in her stomach. Put pressure on that crap. So, surprisingly, she starts bleeding out. And Edward injects her with his venom, which he just has a syringe of lying around in a junk drawer. I know that she's already married to him, but can we please add a red flag to that? Thank you. So Jacob goes to see Bouncing Baby. Nope, I can't say it. I'm calling her Taco Bell. So the second Jacob sees Bouncing Baby Taco Bell, get ready for this. He immediately imprints on her. What's imprinting, you ask? Well, it's a werewolf instinct that pretty much sets up that person as the werewolf's life mate. Yep. If the whole 300-year-old vampire dating an underage girl in the first movie didn't make you uncomfortable, then this definitely will. And I know it's said that the vampire can't choose who he imprints on, but the author of the book can, so yeah, this is still pretty bad for me. So an ending that I will have to admit is pretty well done. Bella heals from her pregnancy and opens her eyes being a vampire. And so, oddly enough, that wasn't that terrible. I mean, don't get me wrong, the honeymoon stuff is awful, but when it gets to the whole vampire pregnancy stuff, it actually is well done and has a lot of interesting vampire bits that I'm shocked aren't used in other movies. And like I said at the beginning, the visuals and cinematography are way too good for this movie, with some really cool shots. Kind of proves that a movie is only as good as its director. But can the last movie keep up its streak of not being too terrible? Let's find out. So, we made it. 4 movies down, 1 more to go. And oddly enough, this one is my favorite. Oh, it's still pretty bad by, like, normal movie standards. And the cool cinematography from the first movie is completely gone. But now that the series is nearly over, it's like the movie decided to kick back and just go with whatever. So let's go around the bend one last time. So we open up exactly where we left off. Bella being a vampire. Well, right after 5 minutes of an opening sequence where everyone who has ever been in a Twilight movie is credited. So Bella and Edward hunt, and what is this? Do I see actual emotion from Bella here. So she's about to attack a sweet baby deer when she sees a cougar and kills it instead. And yes, we do get a shot of Kirsten Stewart tackling. So Bella and Edward get home and find Jacob is still being a pepper about things, but this time it's about baby Taco Bell. Oh gosh, is it made of nightmares. When Bella asks him why he's being such a pepper, everyone makes a hole for the throwdown that's about to happen.
You imprinted on my daughter?
It wasn't my choice.
She's a baby!
It's not like that.
So one long time coming smackdown later, everything is hunky-dory, except for the whole ex-distant to marry your daughter thing. But once again, Bella is too busy to remember that her father is at home worried out of his mind. The family suggests they should tell him that Bella is dead, but Jacobs decides to do something considerate of another person for once and tells Charlie about werewolves, which kind of opens his mind about not asking questions and just going fishing. Always fish. So everything is going pretty well. The baby Taco Bell is growing up healthily. A little too healthily considering she's now 4, even though it's been a couple of months. But someone sees Taco Bell and thinks she's an immoral child, which is a child who was turned into a vampire and has no self-control their child and kills everything they see. That's actually kind of interesting. She goes and tells the Bloody Buddy gang and now they're on their way. So it's obviously pretty bad, so Alice and Jasper book it, not telling anybody of their plan. So the rest of the vampires who are left go off and start recruiting people to witness that this child is cute, but she's not cute. She's a horribly CGI generated person. But that's what brainwashing is for. Also, that's Joe from *Halt and Catch Fire*. Just wanted to point that out. Anyways, so then this movie becomes the X-Men, with everyone having mutant powers, including Bella, who can shield anyone from anyone else's powers. See the New Moon section for why that's stupid. So one boring bonfire later, and we finally get to the face-off this entire series has avoided building up to. The Bloody Buddy gang see that Taco Bell is an adorable CGI-enhanced child and decide to say, screw it, let's just kill everyone anyway, because this series' big bad was seeming a little bit too reasonable. But Alice and Jasper show up and get themselves captured. Great. Alice says they could show them the future, but they're too in the screw it mood to actually care. So they're about to kill Alice when Carlisle tries to stop them and ends up getting his face ripped off. Then a huge battle breaks out where heads and limbs go flying, people are fed to wolves, and the gates of Hades themselves open up. Yeah. Long stretch from the dead-eyed love stares of the first movie, but don't worry your precious little butt off. Your favorite pieces of background dressing aren't dead, because the target audience would be too sad to watch the rest of the movie. So yeah, everything was a vision. The head ripping off, the lava, Dakota Fanning getting fed to wolves, all a vision. Oh well. It was too good to be true. So because of that vision, they stop fighting, and we find out that Taco Bell isn't the only half-human, half-vampire, and everyone goes home. Alice has a vision of Bella and Edward with Jacob and Taco Bell all hugging each other, and Jacob remains the world's biggest jerk.
Should I start calling you Dad?
Edward, you now have the right to rip his head off. I'm okay with it. But we end in the same field where most of this mess began, and as an added slap to the face, they show us a 5-minute montage of all the other Twilight movies, because the PTSD-induced nightmares I will surely have for the rest of my life are definitely not enough.
Nobody's ever loved anybody as much as I love you.
Easy, easy. You made it through this entire series without a meltdown. There are only 4 seconds left. You know what? Screw it. So, Bella, you loved Edward so much, so Fruit Loopy much, that you kept Jacob as your side piece. And you love him so much that you turn to said side piece when your relationship gets hard. And you loved him so much that you refused marriage until it was convenient for you. You do not love Edward. Yeah, you're attracted to him, yeah, but let's not pretend you actually love him. Because love takes more than just staring at each other for 5 hours and then saying that you'll die for them. It takes interest, support, and actual sacrifice. I don't care anymore. Roll the credits. Skip the literal bookend. Just roll them. I am done. That is it. I did it. You can't touch me anymore. I watched all these movies. While this movie was better than the rest, one thing holds him back, and that is, this is a Twilight movie. Literally every criticism I have can be said for all of the movies. And those criticisms are, the writing is stupid, the characters are stupid, the romance is stupid, the length of each movie is stupid, it's just overall stupid. But really, what did we expect? I mean, let's be honest here, this series never claimed it was Citizen Kane. It's just a stupid romantic fantasy written by a mother who had an idea and thought that she could make money off of it. And yeah, it did. It made a lot of money. And while it's stupid, there are quite a lot of interesting story bits, like the vampire child thing, the vampire turf war. Even the idea of a vampire falling in love with a human would be good in the right hands. But here's the thing. The purpose of Twilight was not to be good. It was meant to make girls 13 through 46 swoon, like those cheesy romance novellas. You know, of the shirtless buff guy caressing the long-haired woman. No one judges those because everyone knows they're dumb. But it's not the point. Everything has an audience, and while logic is not suggestive, the level of enjoyment someone gets out of something is. If you like this series, I don't think you're stupid, and if you hate this series, I'm not gonna agree with every single aspect of that hate. If you haven't seen this series, well, I just ruined it for you, but you should watch at least the first one, with friends, because I think unless the concept is terrible on the onset like that, you shouldn't criticize something without trying it. But as for this series, I can say I watched all of it, and nothing can take that away from me.